Alright guys, welcome back. So this is the second video. In the last video we just quickly set up this first primary domain controller and configured our home network for statically assigned IP addresses. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a second just to activate the server here. So give me a quick second. You can download all these trial servers at Microsoft for 180 days and they email you a product key for 180 days. So yeah, just give me a quick second, I'll be right back. Actually, to do that you can just click on, you can go to Server Manager and then up here on the right you just go Activate Windows, and yeah, give me a quick second here. Just type in your key and hit next. Alright, so I'm all activated here. You can see down here I got my evaluation, 180 days. So what we're going to do now is I guess we can go ahead and talk about Active Directory and check out what our scheme is going to be like. But first off, I just want to go to a quick little whiteboard here and explain a couple things that you want to take note of when you're designing your network. Alright, so bear with me here. I just bought this new stylus pen. Okay, so what we did is we set up techknowledge.com, and like I was saying, that's our forest root domain. That was our first domain controller installed for techknowledge.com. So that by default makes that the forest root domain controller. So what a forest is, quickly in design terms, is represented as a triangle. Okay, so Techknowledge, that server that we just installed, resides inside of this domain here. We also got a bunch of users that log in. They all go into this domain controller to access their logins. We got groups. We got a whole bunch of stuff here. All of our other servers, our SQL, SharePoint, our file, and our backup, all reside in here. The only one that's not going to reside, well, even the read-only domain controller, that is going to reside in here, but it's going to be physically located in another part of the the province. So we're going to have two divisions here. We're going to have a Barrie network, which consists of most of our company, and then we're going to have a Timmins network, which is going to be a smaller size version of our company. There's not going to be really any IT staff there, so we're going to implement a read-only domain controller, which will have a replica of our, of our primary domain controllers and everything. So, for instance, we have our, our server over here, our primary domain controller. That's located, in Barrie. And then we got our read-only domain controller, which is located in Timmins. Now, connecting these is going to be a WAN link. Okay? So a WAN link is a wide area network. Now, when you have users over here in Timmins and they're logging in, well, they're going to log into the read-only domain controller. If this wasn't implemented, they would have to cross this WAN link and log into our primary domain controller, and this can use up a lot of wasted bandwidth. So we're going to design a read-only domain controller in the Timmins network, but it's still going to reside in this forest here. Okay, so you just got to visualize that the forest is everything in our domain controller. Now we can have child domains. Let me just clean this up here real quick. Okay, so we have our domain, our forest right here, which is techknowledge.com. Okay, we can have another branch down here, and this is what it would look like on like a design sheet. You know, you have a bunch of triangles connected. That just means a different domain space. So for instance, if our company was big enough, and let's say, you know, we had the marketing, the sales, HR, all that in this domain. Well, let's say marketing got really big and was really huge, and we needed some IT staff that need to have their own, you know, segregated department. Well, we could move marketing down here in their own kind of domain, and they would be called marketing dot techknowledge. Can't spell. .com, and that's what a child domain would be. This would be like a tree. So a tree, if you've seen my other video, a tree resides in the same namespace here. Okay, so you got your forest, which is techknowledge, and then this is a tree. It branches down, as you can kind of see here. And then we can segregate the marketing, so they would no longer be in this domain here. They would log in, access all their own resources, all in this domain. But for our sake, we're gonna have just what's called a single forest, you know, administration. So we're gonna have one IT staff, who's Paul, and he's gonna be the forest administrator, as you can say. So he's gonna administer everything that goes on here, and he'll delegate administrative controls over, you know, down lower level administrators, you know, like help desk users who have to reset passwords and whatnot. Moving on from this, now I'm going to just kind of show you what we're going to use for our IP scheme here. Like I said, we have the 10.10.10.0 namespace. So we got 10.10.10.0. That's our network we're using. And our gateway to the internet is 10.10.10.1-24 or 255.255.0. Okay, so that represents our subnet mask. And what that represents is our network. So 10.10.10.10 is our network, which leaves us 255 usable IP addresses in this range. But we need to separate our IP addresses so we can have our servers. So we have our primary domain controller. We're going to have our secondary domain controller. We're going to have our big file server. We're going to have our SQL server, our SharePoint, our backup, and I believe that was everything. Oh yeah, our read-only domain controller, and yeah, that's everything. So I did kind of put a little design together, and I'm going to use the addresses 10.10.10.5 through 20 as servers that are just addresses that can't be used for anything, whether we install printers later on or get more servers later on. We'll have a little bit of extra room here. But these servers are not going to be, these IP addresses are not going to be handed out by our DHCP server. So our primary domain controller, which we already installed, is 10.10.10.12. Our secondary can be 10.10.10. I don't know, let's say 6, and this is going to be 7. So those are going to be our IP addresses that we're going to use, and I'm not going to waste our time and go through setting up each individual one. I'll do it on the fly as we use them, and I'll have them done before I make the videos. Okay, so moving on now, we're going to just set up DHCP quickly, and then probably in the next video we'll go through Active Directory, because now DHCP will be working and all of our servers will get the proper IP addresses that they get here. Okay, so let's open up our server here, and we can go, we're in server manager, so we can go to roles, or sorry, click on the roles here and go to add roles, and we can just skip this for default, and we're going to set up our DHCP server. So it's just going to go ahead and set up everything, and again, this is going to be some quick notes here to, if you want to read over some things, you can just click on those links. The scope here, or the connection binding, I guess, keep this default. We only have the one server, so let's just binding to that. And it's going to validate our DNS server. So alternate DNS, we could assign it this secondary domain controller 10.6, but we'll leave it for now as just having our own. This is a loopback address 127.0.0.1. that's called loopback, so it'll just loop back to the domain controller here. So we'll just hit next here, and we don't have a Wins server. So what that's for is for older Windows NT 4 clients who are trying to log in can access the Win server to log in, but we don't have to worry about that. So we're going to hit next. And the DHCP scope, we can do this later or we can do it now. I'm going to do it later just for sake of getting through this little wizard here. Page here, we can enable IP version 6 or disable it. For this video, I'll just disable it for now. We can get into it later if we want to. And here is just the credentials that are going to be used. So let's say if you're running this wizard on a lower level administrator, you can specify, you can get your, you can get the main IT ad manager to come in and put his credentials in here if, look over the settings, let's say. But for now, we're going to use the administrator. And hit next and just confirm everything, and then it's going to run through the installation wizard or the installation here, and when it's done I'll return to the recording. Alright, so that's done, so I'm just going to close out of that, and we don't need to restart anything. It's red X because it's not set up yet, and you'll just see that it failed and then it reset itself, couldn't bind. Failed to see directory server for authorization, and then here it will have authorized, so see, is authorized to start servicing. So don't worry, don't let the red X scare you. So I'm just gonna exit server manager. I don't like working in it. Actually what I like doing is getting myself a little desktop shortcuts here going on, and go to admin tools, and I'm going to select domains and trusts because we're going to use that. Users and computers, ADSI edit's good, DHCP, DNS, and group policy manager. Those are what I like to use. Right click, send to desktop. Alright, so what we're doing, we're going to do our DHCP scope here. So just open up DHCP. I removed this right pane here, and what we're going to do now is just set it up. So click on your domain here, domain node, click on IP version 4, and you're going to want to right click and configure a new scope. Next here, and what we're going to call this, so you have provided scope name, so we're going to just call it tech knowledge. And hit next, and starting IP addresses. Sorry there, I totally forgot to I was thinking about this, I totally forgot to show you guys the IP scheme that we're using, so give me a quick second here. Just gotta open up my little sketchbook, so it won't take long. So we had 10.10.10.0, and we used up 5 to 20 for our servers. We didn't use them up, but we're just gonna hold those off for our servers. So the users, they're going to start at 10.10.10.21 and go all the way up to 250. We can go 250 and then leave the last 5 just out of the picture for now. It's close to the end of the IP scheme. So yeah, like our DHCP scope is going to be for this range here. And then we're going to set up reservations for this scope. Okay? Just wanted to kind of clarify that. I kind of knew I was missing something there. So yeah, so the starting is going to be 21 and ending is going to be 250. And the length of our subnet mask is 24. And we're going to hit next. And is there any IP address range you want to exclude? So now we're going to exclude the servers. Oops. 5 I said. To 20 I believe. Yeah, 5 to 20. Hit add. Oh, I forgot to... I keep getting mixed up there. I gotta add them in here and then exclude them from here. And then the lease for the clients, so what that means is when you get an IP address, here I'll just sketch that out for you. It's good to have visuals. I know I got my new sketchpad and I'm just gonna find excuses to use it. But we got the server here. Okay, this is our primary domain controller, our Active Directory domain services roles, DNS, and now DHCP. So now users in technology.com, when they log in, when they turn their computers on, their little computer is going to log into the domain controller here, and for the first time, so their authentication is going to be done through Kerberos, and you know they're going to get tickets to access resources and everything on our network. But when the computer logs in for the first time, DHCP is going to give it an IP address, and it's going to remember that the computer will remember that IP address, and DHCP will remember that IP address for 8 days. So that's what the lease means. Just letting you guys know that. Okay, so hit next. And do you want to configure the DHCP options for this scope now? Yeah, I do. And what that's going to do is like set up the router and just the basic settings so that any computer that logs into those IP addresses will have a router to go to and have a DNS server to look up. So it's important for a scope, and you can add more things in it after you're done here. So the router is 10.10.10.1. Add. We don't have any other routers for now, so we'll just hit next. The DNS server is obviously our server here, but everyone else isn't going to know to look at their self, so we're going to remove that. And we're going to add in 10.10.10.12 to point to our domain controller here that has it set up. So we're going to add that. It's going to validate. And it's good to go. So now we're going to hit next. And our Win server, we don't have one of those set up, so we're going to hit next. And do you want to activate the scope? Yes, I do. And I'm going to hit finish. And now we have our DHCP set up. So I'll just go through these little folder lists here. So when you're in DHCP, the console, and you go down to your scope, your technology scope, you can see your address pool. So it goes from 5 to 250, but it excludes 5 to 20. And our address leases, there's none right now. No one's connected yet. Reservations, this is where we're going to go and set up for our servers now. So to do this, we're going to need our MAC address for each server. So what we're going to do now, and don't forget, the servers aren't part of the domain, so they're not actually on the network yet, so when they do get this network, that's when they're going to be assigned these addresses. So when they first start up, they are going to get an address from the range that we've provided here. So I'm going to start up our secondary domain controller here. I don't like using VMware, but I like it, but I would rather remote desktop into it. So I'll set up remote desktop and then we'll remote into it from there. I'm just going to close these guys off for now. Okay, so I'm going to log in with our secondary domain controller, local admin. So don't get confused about local and domain accounts and all that. It's just simple. Like when you think of a local account, it's the computer. So this computer, if it was physical, the local account is that administrator. So to not bore you guys, I've went ahead and renamed all the computers to match up what they are. So Tech Knowledge Domain Controller 02. And actually, again, I'm going to activate my server here. So give me a second. Alright, so I'm all activated here. And yeah, oh yeah, so I was getting the MAC address for you guys. And we're going to enable remote desktop. So we'll do remote desktop first. So just click on this, configure remote desktop, and allow network level authentication. Hit apply and OK. So now we're going to close out of this, and we're going to open up our command prompt to get our MAC address here. So we're going to do an IP config-all. And you can see here your physical MAC address. That's your MAC address for the computer. And you can also see here too that we do have things set up. So our default gateway came out as 10.10.10.1. DHCP server came out as .12. Where's our IP address? Right here. So 10.10.10.21. So you can see our DHCP server is working, because that's our pool is from 5 to or sorry, it starts at 20 because we have these excluded. So 21 is the first IP address. Let me refresh that, and you can see now that you can visually see now that our second domain controller showed up in our leases here. So DHCP server is working. But I want that MAC address there. So shimmy this guy over, get a reservation going on here. So our second domain controller we said is going to be .9, so 10.10.10.9, and we can just there you go. And the MAC address is 00-0C. Oops. -29-78-0F-B6. And a description, I guess, copy that, put that there, and this was DC. There you go. So that's done. Hit close, and now you can see we have a reservation here. It has its proper scope options. That's what we configured there in the wizard. And now if I do an IP config dash release, oops, and then do a renew, I should get my 10.9 IP address, hopefully. I got some work to do. And there we go. So 10.10.10.9 is the IP address of our secondary domain controller here. So there, DHCP is working. And if you want to check out those scope options I was telling you about, you can go to properties here. Oops. Scope options right there. So configure options, sorry. And this here is you can set up a whole bunch of other options. So the Win server, if you ever did get a Win server, you can set it up here. That's where you can go and set up additional options for your clients to get. And yeah, so that's about it. So I refresh, that other old IP address is gone, and it's now back in the pool. So I'm just kind of blabbing here. So I guess the next video we're going to I guess go through our Active Directory structure now and actually start building it. Or no, you know what? Next I'm going to set up the secondary domain controller here. Alright, so thanks for watching, guys.